This episode for me was like a side quest in a video game. Last episode, we had direction, we knew where we were going and why we were going there. And then this episode kind of comes in and forces you to do something else for no reason. And while the side quest is very entertaining, it has important story implications and it's action-packed, you just kind of want to be doing the main mission. And this is kind of how I felt with this episode. There are going to be spoilers in this review, so if you do want to watch the episode firsthand, you have been warned. First and foremost, this episode is extremely entertaining. All of it was great fun, and that's what Star Wars is about. I had a fantastic time watching it. And I'd like to mention the Dark Forces and Jedi Knight vibes that I was getting from the whole thing. Whether that was just me, I don't know, but given that I just played through the games recently, they kind of synergize well with each other. The whole Imperial base infiltration, the security keys, the amount of stormtroopers that were just dropping like flies. And while I didn't think it was as much of a love letter as the first episode was to KOTOR, I definitely felt like this episode took some inspiration, at least, from Dark Forces and the Jedi Knight franchises. And that interest leads into the end of the episode because it seems like there's Dark Troopers from the Dark Forces games. And it kind of would make sense given that this whole episode had the same kind of vibe. But I want to get what I didn't like about this episode out of the way first. Despite it being an entertaining episode, it just felt like a side quest, as I mentioned. This episode just forcefully stops the main story to tell something else, and while this side quest does have important story implications, especially regarding Baby Yoda's connection with the Empire, pickled Snokes, and the Emperor's resurrection, I feel like an entire filler episode just so we can get like 45 seconds worth of world building in the context of its connection with the sequel trilogy wasn't quite necessary. Additionally, at times, this episode felt like a glorified Season 1 supporting character showcase. In my personal opinion, the good companions from Season 1, Quill and IG-11, are dead, and we're left with Greef and Cara, and while I do like Greef Karga, I don't like Cara Dune, and this episode does try to push Cara as a character we're really supposed to connect with, but I just find her bland. I personally would prefer if we had more of Cobb Vanth from episode 1, or Bo-Katan. Hell, I would have preferred to learn more about the Mandalorians that were with Bo in the last episode. Despite that, with my criticisms out of the way, I just want to say how entertaining this episode really is. It is completely action-packed. The base infiltration was great fun, and the entire speed bike and tank chase was also brilliant. And I want to give a little mention to the part where the scout troopers on the speeder bikes are trying to go down the hill, and they all crash into each other. I don't know why, but I just found that absolutely hilarious. I would honestly just call this episode mindless fun, and that's what Star Wars is supposed to be. You're supposed to sit down, you're supposed to have a good time, you're supposed to be entertained, and this episode does that really well. The CGI was fantastic, we got even more aliens and creature diversity yet again, which is awesome. The audio design was exemplary, and everything from an artistic standpoint about this episode was perfect, just like every episode before. So to sum this episode up, it does feel fillery, and it does feel like a side quest, but despite that, it's really entertaining. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm super glad to see that another thing from Legends is what gave this episode inspiration, or at least that's what I saw from my perspective. But I will say that I do think this episode is the weakest of the season so far. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it the way I loved the last three. Now, I cannot wait for next week. By the looks of it, we're going to get Dark Troopers, we're going to get Moff Gideon and the Darksaber, we're going to get Ahsoka, we might even get a lightsaber battle, and I just cannot wait. This is what we've all been waiting for, and I'm just so excited. I am still cautious about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, but that's not going to stop me from being super hyped about what's to come. If you've already seen this episode, tell me below in the comments what you thought of it, and if you enjoyed the video, perhaps consider subscribing to see my reviews of the show every single week. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, perhaps consider checking out my Patreon or becoming a channel member, and please, come and join my Discord server. I'd love to have you there. All the links are in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, may the Force be with you, always.